jungle. Who wants the smoke? I didn't think so. Use a joke, about to get your ankles broke. Chasing C notes. Chasing C notes. Welcome to the jungle. Who wants the smoke? I ain't think so. Use a joke, about to get your ankles broke. Chasing C notes. Dynasties.
Welcome to Chasing C Notes podcast. I'm your co-host Eric, and I'm always joined by my co-host Larry. What's good, Larry?
What's going on, my man?
This is round one preview of the playoffs. I know we're recording this Saturday afternoon. Indiana and Milwaukee are playing as we speak, but we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics and what we have on the agenda for today. We're going to talk about NBA news. We're going to talk about the April review for the Celtics, and then we're going to talk about the playoffs matchups. And Larry, I'm going to start with the news, and I'm going to start out with the playing games are over. Any of these teams shock you? They're in, they're out. Where are you right now?
Shout out to Atlanta. You know, I live in Atlanta. Shout out to Atlanta. They did really well. They lost 2 good games, and they're done. But they know what they need to work on, and they'll be back. But nothing really shocked me with the play-in. You got your 7 and 8, you got your 9 and 10. Fighting for their playoff lives, and there was really no shock. It was tough for Memphis to be in there because they slid down, and then I felt bad for the Mavs because they lost AD and then Kyrie. So they slid down, but it is what it is, and I think the best teams are in there, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I think Atlanta, who if they lost both playing games, I think that they were going to blow the team up. Now we're talking about can Trae Young do this? So shout out to Atlanta, they did their thing, they avoided catastrophe. The only team that I'm not shocked, but I'm surprised that they thought it would work was Sacramento. I mean, they basically just copy and paste whatever Chicago Bulls did, and they were like, no, DeRozan, he's a winner. Oh, Levine, he's a winner. No, they're not. And they fired a GM just recently, a couple of days ago. So, what do you think was going to happen? The formula wasn't working in Chicago, and it wasn't going to work in Sacramento. I'm Memphis squeaking in there, and Miami just doing Miami things like they always do. All of a sudden they're in the playoffs when everyone was counting them out. So I'm not surprised, but I'm also at the same time seeing Miami make the playoffs it's not surprising. Larry, where are you with the Denver getting rid of their head coach? Malone, right? Malone was his last name. Where are you?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of what just happened with Memphis. Memphis just lost their coach maybe about 2 weeks prior to that, and we were just like, "What's going on?" We thought it was a locker room problem. I didn't know Malone's story. I didn't know if he had an issue with the locker room. So it was very strange. And then they said that it wasn't a decision made by their MVP. Like, he didn't know what was going on. Like, they just said, "Hey, this is what we're doing," and he said, "Okay." So we don't know if he had any kind of knowledge about it, or if it was his call, but he seemed like he was pretty fine with, "Hey, it's out of my range, nothing I can do about it." But we don't know the real story yet. I guess it'll come out a little bit later.
Yeah, I guess we will. Sad to see, but at the same time, I don't know. So late in the season, they do this change. We talked about Memphis. I don't know if that's gonna work, so we'll see. I guess more details to come. Larry, let's quickly look at April. The team went 7-2. You had them going. I'm sorry. The team went 5-2. You had them going 7-0. I had them going 6-1. Any surprises for you?
No. I mean, that makes sense. They sat their players one game, and then of course Miami just decided they wanted to shock the Celtics. They wanted to have some kind of revenge game, I guess, and they wanted to beat them. But that was it. We were ready for the playoffs. We're ready to move on, we'll take our 61-21. But what we want is that chip.
All right, yeah. I'm not surprised. This is, it was on cruise control, so I'm not surprised. Let's talk about the playoff matchups, Larry. Let's start with the game that's currently going on, Milwaukee and Indiana. Larry, who do you choose to win the series?
I just feel like Indiana has the momentum right now. I think I'll say the same thing about Detroit in a little bit, but I just feel like they're there. They're more of it's all about when you're ready. Some teams were better in the beginning of the season, but it's like when you're ready, when the playoffs hit, are you ready to win? And they're ready to win right now. So I think they'll beat Milwaukee. What do you think about Milwaukee versus Indiana?
Yeah, I got Indiana as well. I think without Damian Lillard, it's going to be easy pickings for Indiana. They should win this series. Who do you have for the Clippers and Nuggets?
Just because they lost their coach, I am going with the Clippers on this one. And again, the Clippers seem like they got the momentum right now. They've been playing well the last couple of weeks. Harden and Kawhi are just coming up with, they have that balance, that rhythm, and that's the most important thing. So I got the Clippers beating Denver.
Yeah, same thing. I think the Clippers are a better coach team, and it looks like they have injury bug under control, so I like the Lakers. Detroit against the New York. Who do you have?
I'm actually going with Detroit. I was gonna lean and hit New York. I'm still concerned about how Brunson looked the last couple of games, and I know he's not 100%, but who is at this point? But I just feel like he was lacking that fire. I do know playoff Brunson is different. I just don't know if he's going to get to that level in time. I'm going with Detroit. Detroit again has played well recently. I'm going with everyone who's been playing well recently. So Indiana, Clippers, and now Detroit. What about yourself?
I went with the Knicks just because I think they have more talent. I don't think they're the tougher team. Excuse me, but I'm going with the Knicks on this one. Larry, Minnesota against LA, which is probably my favorite first round series. Who do you got?
This is going to be a great series. Minnesota is actually starting to play better right now, but overall, the Lakers have been playing better at a longer time frame, and Luka's on a revenge tour, Nico tour. So I think that the Lakers are going to, Minnesota will win a few games, but I think the Lakers are going to go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I think the Lakers have this one. Unless some kind of catastrophe happens or injury bug, I got the Lakers winning this one. Memphis versus OKC. Who you got?
OKC has won so many games this year, and it's just amazing what they've done. I can't see Memphis do anything, and they just lost their coach. I just feel like they're just not ready yet. They're missing some pieces. Again, it's all about how you're playing right now. They haven't been playing well right now. So OKC got this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think OKC takes this one. Miami versus Cleveland. Who you got?
I'm just going to go with Cleveland on this one. This one could actually be a sweep or maybe 5. I just feel like, Cleveland is got something to prove. They have that really great record, and if they don't win the first round, no one's ever going to talk about anything they did this season. So Cleveland's not going to play any games, and they're not going to pull any punches. They have a really good bench too, and everyone's back. So I think Cleveland's going to.
Yeah, I like Cleveland too, and I also like the fact that they get Miami in the first round. So I don't know if it's going to go 7 games, but at least they get some punishment with Miami. Golden State versus Houston. Who you got?
This one's tough. Houston, has their ups and downs, but they've been playing really well lately. They're well coached. We know who their coach is. Golden State is experienced. They got Curry. They got Butler. I'm going with Golden State on this one. This one could go either way. I'm going to go with Golden State. I think Golden State can take this one. Playoff Jimmy's there. The Chef Curry's there. So I think they got this one.
See, here I went with Houston because after that playing game against Memphis, which I thought that they should have won easily, they didn't. I don't know if playoff Jimmy can carry the burden game after game for this series. I like Ime Udoka to like just throw guys at Golden State, especially Curry because he's not 100%. So I'm actually going to go with Houston to win the series. I don't know how many games, but I like this team. When it comes to crunch time, who's going to get the ball? Well, I still don't know with Houston. I just don't know who, but I got Houston on this series. So this is, by the way, Larry, this is episode 22. We're going to do a Boston against Orlando breakdown. We're going to bring in a special guest for that, so stay tuned. All right, let's talk about Boston against Orlando because this is a first round series. As we know, we're going to have a special guest to talk about this. My counter partner from my other podcast, Ron. What's going on, Ron?
What's going on? NBA playoff time, man.
This is the time that you pop up, so to speak, and say your opinion. And this is really the only time, because we don't ever talk about the Red Sox. This is really the only time where we actually we root for the same team, Ron. We actually root for the Boston Celtics, and your opinion is valuable. So where are you, Ron? Are you nervous? First of all, let me just ask, how many games is it going to take for the Celtics to win?
I'm sticking with 6. I think that's what I had mentioned before. I think there's a potential for this to go the distance. A lot's going to rely on Brown, his availability, his health. I think it's going to go 6. I think Magic they're going to play them pretty tough. But they have played them tough.
Okay, but be more specific, Ron, because saying, I think it's going to go 6, like, why do you think? Because when it comes to this, Larry and I, we're in the same frame of mind that it's going to be a sweep. I say 5 games, but why do you think 6 games?
I just don't. I think the road this year is a lot tougher. I think the Magic are a more experienced team. They're a young team, right? A lot of younger guys. I think this is they're more experienced this year. I think they'll be ready this time around. They're used to playing the Celtics. They're not going to just fold. They're not the better team. I think they know that. But I think they're going to rely on, their stars like Banchero and Wagner to really carry them. And I think they're going to steal a couple games. That's what it's going to come down to. I think they'll just steal a couple wins. I think they'll steal one in Boston. It wouldn't shock me at all. And, I think the road ahead beyond this series is going to be a little bit more challenging than it was last year for the Celtics.
Larry, do you agree with that assessment?
I'm going back to what you said before, is that they don't have a number 2. They need another scorer. Orlando did have that, but injury took that away from them, and they're just not the same team. I think Banchero was out earlier, and then Suggs was carrying them, and now it's the opposite way, and they're just not going to have enough. Ron does make a good point. They could steal a win. They could go 5, but I'm still pushing for the sweep. I think the Celtics have been more experienced now. They struggle sometimes in the playoffs, and I think they realize that they got to put these teams away and don't give them any hope. Like I think they did with Indiana, where they ended up sweeping every game. Even JB hitting that last shot at that last second. So, and going back to what you guys said before, I don't think we need JB for the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that definitely Orlando has more experience. I mean, Anthony Black, this is his second year, and I believe he's starting. We know that Banchero, he's an all-star, so he's going to put up the points. But other than Banchero, who is your second guy? Who's going to put up Cole Anthony, he's coming off the bench. He's not even a starter. Yeah, he's a good, a good minutes guy, but he's a point guard. He's not going to grab rebounds. Jonathan Isaac, who last year was injured, I can see him playing better defense. Orlando overall as a team has a player defense when it comes to defending three-pointers. They're good at it. I just don't think that they have enough firepower. I think that once you get the ball out from Banchero, who's going to be your number two? The Wagner brothers, the one that's really good, he's not going to be available. So I don't know. I don't know if, this is so formidable of opponent, to be honest with you. I picked Orlando at the beginning of the year to have a better season, and they tanked it. As soon as Banchero was injured, they tanked the season. They couldn't score. There was crunch minutes when they needed to score. They couldn't. 5 games, and like you said, maybe they still won in Boston, but I'm really sticking to just maybe no Jaylen Brown for this series and 5 games. That is my prediction. I'm sticking to it. I think this team knows what it takes. They already won it. They know that they can't mess around like they did last year. There was many games where, they were playing with the food. They wasn't taking it serious. And I think that this season they're going to take it serious. And Orlando is going to be, it's going to set it's going to set the series. So I like this series. I'm happy that it wasn't Miami. I'm happy that it wasn't Atlanta. So bring it on. Bring it on. Ron, I know that you're mostly here to talk about Boston, but overall, what did you think of the season? They ended up 61-21.
It was a good season. Listen, the Celtics do tend to take naps from time to time. They did that a couple times this season. They finished in second place. I think they're the best team still. They're just they're just like a really, really experienced, well-coached team that when they focus, they're tough to deal with. And when they don't, they give games away. I think in the playoff, it's like I said, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher this year. I don't necessarily think they'll have any lack of focus. I think they'll be focused, but the injuries do scare me a little bit. Even for Porzingis, man, sometimes I feel like you can just, it's like hit or miss with him. And I don't know. I'm just hoping that he makes it throughout, the playoffs, because they're going to need him for sure. But if they, already dealing with Brown, if like somebody else, has any sort of injuries, I think, they aren't going to make it. So, but I thought it was a good season. I think it was expected for them to be in this position, though.
Yeah, I think it was a good season. They never lost 3 games in a row. Mm-hmm. One time, maybe they lost back-to-back games, but this was a great season as far as resting people, as far as Porzingis not beginning of the season in the injury list and then coming back. They're really rested, except for JB. They're really rested for this playoff to begin. Larry, is there anything of concern, except for JB, is there anything else that concerns you?
I just going to piggyback off of what Ron said. Any injury at this point would be devastating to us, especially to our front court. We definitely need that to stay intact with White, Holiday, and what they do so well. We just got to make sure that nucleus stays well. We can gamble with not having Brown for a while. But we do need to make sure that, again, we don't play with our food and that we're ready to rock and roll. We won games with just Pritchard and White playing really well, so we can do it.
So, if you had your prediction, who would you want Boston to face in the second round, the Knicks or Detroit?
Probably be the Knicks. and Knicks have been so garbage against top. I would want to play them. I don't know what's missing. I know Brunson does not look the same. I feel like Detroit's hungry. I wouldn't be shocked if Detroit ends up pushing New York and winning that. I'd rather play the Knicks at this point. But we can still beat Detroit too. It's not going to be an issue. But we know what the real challenge is, and that's the last two games we got. The last two teams we got to play.
You feel the same way, Ron? You want New York Knicks?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think either of those teams match up really well against Boston. I think we've seen the best of the Knicks with Brunson. I think they've reached their ceiling, to be honest with you. Getting to the playoffs is their ceiling. So I don't think it's really going to make a difference who we play now.
Yeah.
But once we get beyond that, that's when I think it's really going to be a challenge. And health is going to be a concern. They got to be healthy for sure. And Brown's going to need to play, going to have to play well once we get past the next series.
To be honest, if we beat Orlando without JB, this Detroit or the New York Knicks don't really scare me. JB can also sit round two because other than Cade for Detroit or Brunson with the Knicks, they don't really have a number 2 point guard that you would need JB out there for. And we have two really, really good defending guards. So I know it's the crystal ball, but I would rather be comfortable with JB not there for round 1 and round 2. That would be, and then bring them back for against Cleveland, hoping that Cleveland's still going to be there. Bring them back for Cleveland because we're talking about the Eastern Conference champs. You want your best players there, rested. Listen, injuries can happen, but I'm going to be predicting injury-free for the rest of the playoffs. So, in Porzingis, I know he's fragile. He's going to be there. There's really nobody that can stop him. He would be the number 2 scorer on this team if JB sits down. So, I'm fine with that. Tatum 1, KP 2, and then maybe Derek White as number 3. But I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly fine. I think we can beat Orlando and the Knicks with JB not there. Ron, do you have anything to say? I know that we're recording this during the Milwaukee, Indiana game, but Sunday, tomorrow is Easter, which happens to be 420. How do you feel? Like, are you excited? Are you rooting for Boston to defend their home court? Where are you right now?
Yeah, listen, happy Easter, first of all, to everybody, but I'll be at my aunt's house. I told her, make sure she has the game on. I expect them to go win. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to have them to have a letdown at home. But I plan on catching as much of the game as possible, and I'm hoping that it gets to a point where, I can kind of relax and not have to worry about them, winning because they're up big or something like that. But, like I said, I think Magic will try to steal a game or two, and I think they're capable of doing that. But we'll see how it goes. I'm just glad that the playoffs finally here. NBA and baseball, I think, are two leagues that it's not till after or around the All-Star break when I start to take them serious. I think teams start to take themselves serious and start to really focus because they're long seasons. And I think the second half of the Celtics season, they really kind of locked in. And they need to keep that going.
All right. Well, let's see tomorrow if I'm predicting that the Celtics are going to be up by 20 and then immediately lose that lead, but still win the game. That's my prediction. And we'll talk, Ron, when we do round 2 podcasts. So until then, I say peace.
Peace.
But other than that, Larry, how do you feel about this round 1 matchup?
I feel good. I don't think we, and we'll talk about it more, but I don't think we need JB for this first round, and I think we're in good shape. Again, Orlando's missing 2 key players that makes them the beast team that they are. So I think that's going to hurt them. I think it's too much pressure on Banchero at this point. But yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's what I think for Boston.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So we're going to do this again. Hopefully, if our predictions are correct, we're going to do a round 2 matchup review, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll keep this thing going. So Larry, thanks again. Hope you have a wonderful Easter and enjoy yourself. Enjoy your family.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.
All right. And with that said, I say peace.
Peace.
Hi, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode, Chasing Dino's podcast. If you have any concerns or questions, feel free to email us at simsportsmedia@gmail.com. And please subscribe to this channel, this page, whatever it is, platform that you listen. Peace.